what kind of relationship does that bring on? I mean, honestly, chiropractic and therapy, almost in my experience, tend to kind of butt heads a little bit.
Yes, and even when I was in chiropractic school, there is definitely this fear in chiropractic that the therapists are going to steal chiropractic and all this stuff. But what I found is there's a complete integration because we do separate things.
Hail, Holy Queen, enthroned above. Oh, Maria. Hail, Mother of mercy and of love. Oh, Maria. Triumph all ye cherubim. Sing with us, ye seraphim. Heaven and earth resound the hymn. Salve, 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 Regina.
Hey guys, it's Lisa Marino with Victress Health and Wellness, and I'm very privileged to have Dr. Anthony Monnin here from Upper Cervical Health Centers in Botkins, Ohio. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
This is a special day. I've never done a full interview like this before. So
Well, good.
yeah.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Monnin, I have to say that I was really impressed when we first got together and started talking chiropractic and posture and therapy, and what kind of relationship does that bring on? I mean, honestly, chiropractic and therapy, almost in my experience, tend to kind of butt heads a little bit.
Yes, and even when I was in chiropractic school, there is definitely this fear in chiropractic that the therapists are going to steal chiropractic and all this stuff. But what I found is there's a complete integration because we do separate things. I compare it to like a dentist and an eye doctor. Like they go and they separate and they have specialties and they do different things. So if you come to me, you want me to do therapy, well, you're off. And if you want to go to you and do upper cervical, it's just... So with my journey in chiropractic, I started finding that if we just do what we're really good at in chiropractic and we integrate with the doctors around us that do all these really cool other stuff, it gives the patient the best opportunity to get the best results. Because that's the most important thing, is we're called to serve. And so as a result of that, we really want to find people that can help patients improve their quality of life and, for us, maximize the results. So one of our key focuses is the upper neck, this upper cervical spine, or the CCJ as we call it in the medical side of things. And it's just such a unique area because you have the highest level of mechanoreceptors from the muscles. You have the lower brainstem meeting the spinal cord. You have the crossing of fibers. You have the regulatory centers of the autonomic system. So all these different functions are happening. And what we tend to find is that area tends to be a weakness when it comes to stress in our bodies.
Right.
Stress is just, like if we have a cup of water and there's so much water you can put in it, well, if it stresses the water, eventually you get too much, it causes problems, it overflows. And the body has to adapt to every stress that we have. And the more stress we have, eventually that stress causes the body to break down into a misaligned position. And we find that most commonly happens at the upper neck or the atlas. And that area is the only vertebra held in place by ligaments and muscles. So it tends to cause, when there's a misalignment, the body, to compensate, will do one of two things. It'll either cause the sympathetic system to go into overdrive, or which is your gas pedal of your body, and then or it'll cause your parasympathetics to go into overdrive. So you don't have this balance of gas and brake. And so getting realigned there is really important so that the body can adapt and it can deal with stress like it's supposed to. And the key for us in the upper cervical world is that we don't have to keep adjusting it. Ideally, a patient, if we find they're misaligned, they get one adjustment, it would hold the rest of their life. It doesn't always happen. We live in a very stressful world. And so part of what I've looked for is, okay, I can do this really, really well, but what other things can people do to help us with that?
Right, and that's when you kind of came to me and I have all these people that are, not holding their adjustments, and it's being, problem where, like you said, I feel like that was what struck me the most, was just that, humility to be like, I have all these people that are, coming into me and we're doing great, making a lot of gains, but then there's that missing piece of the puzzle, that whether it's sympathetic nervous system or posture or stability or whatever, that we want them to get the best care possible, which you kind of mentioned you have this network of providers to really help from all aspects of care.
Yes. And so the postural side of it too is there seems to be, and there's more research going into this, but as the atlas becomes locked, we find that the head, the center of gravity shifts off with the head. And so there's a mechanism in there, and we're still piecing this all together. We're not sure if it's the brain has to be able to work right, if the body compensates to maximize the venous blood flow, the CSF flow, but there's some mechanism that causes the body to start to compensate to keep the head either level with the center of gravity or allow the blood flow to become maximized with the current situation with the neck being out. And what that then does is it causes the lower part of our spine to start compensating and shifting. So a lot of times we'll see the head drift forward head posture, and then that causes the head to start weighing more on the neck, upper back, lower back, and all those different areas start compensating.
Right.
And after 5, 10, 15, 20 years of this, you have chronic problems. So our main focus is the nerve system, but the really cool thing is by realigning the upper neck, the posture can improve too. Mm-hmm. So the longer that the area holds, the better off the posture actually changes. So it's really a really vital area that kind of drew me into it because I was getting ready to drop out of chiropractic school, and upper cervical is what kept me in school and allowed me to basically regain my health after having it deteriorate for a couple of years. And I had gotten good results with chiropractic, but that allowing that switch to happen, realizing, okay, all these great chiropractors do different things, and I want to be the best at this. But I think what really struck me in my first year in practice is I realized that I don't have the answers for everybody. Right. I wish I did. I don't want to be a jack of all trades. I want to be, really, really great at this. I'm going to really hone my skills on this and become the best upper cervical chiropractor I can be, but then also recognize that every person on this planet has some mission God's given them, and some people, their mission, we can integrate that into what we're doing. So, and whether it's massage therapy, whether it's physical therapy, whether it's just general spiritual counseling, like there's so many different aspects. So once the upper neck goes in, we want to make sure that a patient isn't getting too stressed. But if their body's in sympathetic dominance, it doesn't take much at all. Like their cup's already full of water, and one little stress, boom, sets them off, so they need adjusted again. So if we can, work with certain providers to help their body balance itself back out, then they'll need fewer corrections, which equals long-term benefits.
Right.
So I don't want to have to keep adjusting this patient. Maybe ideally every 6 weeks is great, just a little tune-up, but once a week after they've been seeing me for a couple months, we've got to figure out how to get that to improve. And I just realized that even with my wonderful chiropractic schooling, didn't have the answers, but other people do. So let's go find them.
Right. So what's the effects that you've seen on the body from, and maybe explain first, kind of the sympathetic nervous system in your own terms.
Yeah. So we have those 3 types of nerves. We have the pain nerves, which is about 10%. That's everything you sense and feel. You have your motor nerves, which we have really good movement. But we have the nerves that we don't really have control over, the autonomic system. Think of it as the automatic system. So your body's doing all these things you don't have any control over. Food's being digested from 2-3 days ago. Your heart's beating, you're breathing, your kidneys are filtering red blood cells, and you don't have any control over this. So that autonomic system has 2 parts. It has a sympathetic, which is the gas. Okay, it's our fight or flight. It's if we're walking in the woods and we come across a bear, we need to not go to the bathroom, we need to get ready to run. So our body speeds everything up so we can get the heck out of there. And then we have our parasympathetic, which is what slows everything down. It's our sleep centers, it's our digestive centers, it brings the heart back down. What tends to happen, what we've seen with patients and clients as we've shared them, is that their body gets into the sympathetic dominant. And so the way our basically our body is supposed to deal with stress is our adrenal glands in the morning is supposed to peak, and that's supposed to be the biggest stress because that used to be our time to go out and hunt and to gather, and then at the end of the day it's just supposed to tail off.
Right.
Well, now we have this peak, and then 2 hours later we have another peak, and our body continues to overproduce hormones that gets us into that sympathetic dominant side.
And so the body just stays amped up. Every single stress that happens, our body goes into fight or flight. Instead of just, hey, it's a stress, let's just deal with it and move on, you know. It says everything is just, so they're freaking out. And then after 20, 30 years of that, they're in this chronic sympathetic dominant, and that causes just so many problems internally with the body because there's no balance there. They're always on the brink. You see the digestive system start malfunctioning. You tend to see the heart rate want to stay up and amped. You start seeing the extremities start getting cold because the body's bringing the blood into the major organs so that it can, if they do get attacked, the body can heal and take care of those problems. So chronic problems are going to develop with that. And even after 5-10 years, we're going to see a trend of major issues. So it's really important for these people that are sympathetic overload that they get adjusted, that they get your work, and that they spend time in quiet. Because the more time we're on our technology, the more time that we're constantly being stimulated, the body's going to trend to go to that side of things. So first is recognizing, okay, this is a problem I have.
Right.
What are the solutions? So that's kind of in a nutshell what we want to, how we want to address things is get the neck realigned to help the body manage things better, and then allow the body to actually start functioning like it's supposed to. Give it time to heal, which is designed to do, and then allow it to find its balance again. Where you need the gas eventually, and you need some brake in there. It should be constantly, but it shouldn't just be all gas. It shouldn't be all sympathetics.
Right.
Yeah.
So really, when you look at, okay, what is really causing a lot of the issues, or you know, the source of when you're trying to get down to the bottom of it, you know, obviously you want to be able to provide relief, you know, restore alignments, help, you know, improve posture, improve clarity, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, if the problem is because this huge life stressor or my job or you know, whatever's going on, it, you know, is still contributing to that, or like you said, technology. I mean, you could blame a lot of the chronic health problems on that alone, right? But being able to address a lot of those issues really from the start.
Yeah. So after, you know, going through chiropractic school and being in practice for 9 years now on upper cervical, there is a definite need for the mind and the body and all of these things to be addressed. Because if we make the perfect correction up here and that bone is set and it shouldn't come back out, and a patient walks out and immediately starts putting out fires, they're not going to hold their alignment. That leads to an overall general fatigue of the body, and that's where that creates that breakdown of the nerve system and the upper neck misaligning again. And so it really is important, and I think there's a trend now is for people to understand that there's a need for silence, there's a need for quiet, there's a need to spend time with God. And He's not on our iPad, He's not on our iPhone. I mean, those technologies are really nice time savers. In fact, today my wife called me. She was on her way to Piqua with a couple of our nieces to take her out on a girls' spa day. And she called me, she's on 25A, and you know, oh my gosh, there's a traffic jam. Can you look on your phone and see how far it goes? So I pulled up my phone, boom, 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 it tells me it ends at Fair Road. So she got off, I directed her around there. 20 years ago, we didn't have that option. But to be on it all the time and constantly, like, I need to be on my Twitter, I need to be on this, like, that's not how it works, you know? Like, God's not in the wind, I mean, He's in the little bitty whispers, you know? And that's just, so it's so important for us to find that time to balance our body out. So, because we need to be in the world. We're, you know, not everybody's called to live in a monastery and pray for 18 hours a day. Some days it sounds amazing, but most of us are called to be in the world, so to be in the noise, and then to have a way of getting out of that. So the first thing is just to recognize that, okay, I've got an issue I've got to work on. So, and then work on it. So how do I do it? Okay, I'm not going to be on my phone from after 6 o'clock at night or 7 o'clock at night, or, you know, I'm going to do things, just I'm going to sit for 10 minutes. Just going to sit. It's hard when you first get into it. So, but that, your body needs recharged. We need to be recharged physically. We need to be recharged spiritually. And that's, you know, really, really important to help with what we're doing, help with what you're doing, and to help somebody. If the good Lord wants them to do this, but they're constantly working on something over here, He can't use them the best that He can.
Absolutely. So
I think Mother Teresa, you know, I'm just a pencil in God's hands, is the idea that we should all kind of look at, like, yeah, okay, God's got something, some mission for us, and whatever it is, we want to be at our best. So how do we do that?
Right.
So
I have to admit, my interest in you had peaked when we had seen you at church over and over and over, who is this guy? What, what is his story? What is he all about? And then, just amazing to hear, your story, your journey. And then obviously what, drives you to stay dedicated and stay focused on your faith.
Yeah.
Obviously you feel that effect in your family, in your practice, with your patients, how you live your life.
Well, I think the major thing that I've really understand is I'm a pretty good sinner, and the good Lord has given us ways to help with our brokenness. And
Pope Francis would say the same thing, by the way.
So it, I just grew up in Botkins. I'm the youngest of 5 kids, and as you look back on your life, you can see how God's kind of interweaved. But I was just a normal kid from Botkins who, ran around and, fall into all these different vices. But as we got into the Shun Stop movement, which would have been 2009, and we made our covenant in 2010, you start to see the spiritual life as this big onion. And so the superficial stuff, God takes rid of that, and it's like, okay, that was easy stuff. And then he starts getting to the next layer, and the next layer, and the next layer. And when he gets deeper, stuff gets hard. And so you're like, okay, what do I need? I need to get to the sacraments. I need to get to church. I need to, like these things, if we don't go to the Lord because we're broken, then we try to do it ourselves. Right. And, then we make a God of ourselves. And so that's why I feel like the first commandment's the most commonly broken is no other gods besides me. And it's like, well, okay, is my phone a God? Am I a God? Am I prideful? Am I great? And that seems to be as soon as you start, personally, if I start taking on, man, how great we're doing, our practice is doing great, and something happens, you're like, boom, it knocks you back down. So to just find a way to just, okay, you're just a server, you're just serving. It takes time, but my wife is basically the catalyst there. It was probably about 2011, we were living in Anna, and she's like, okay, I want to go to daily mass once a week. So Friday morning, it was 8:30, there was one in Bremen. Oh my gosh, 8:30 in the morning on a Friday, this is awful. And then we started going on Fridays. And then we started going on Tuesday, Fridays. And then before our son AJ was born, we were getting there, I was getting there 4 days a week, she was getting there 5 days a week because of, and it took about 6 full years of just like, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, we went to church every day last week. And it's, and then when you have to do an examination of conscience, and then when Matthew Kelly, he's talking about, you need to go to confession once a month at least, we're starting to do that, and that's when he starts peeling you. He starts, getting rid of these vices. And then if I don't go, the stuff starts coming back. You're like, man, I really need the good Lord in my life. So I think what helps me is I'm still like, my older siblings still come in the office and say, hey, baby brother, like, oh, yeah, I am just the youngest of 5, so it's hard, I've never really taken myself too serious, to be honest with you. I've always been kind of the goofball in the family, so if you get to know me really well, that's kind of what I am. But the more that I have found that I can keep my mind in service mode, I don't care how many people show up today, whoever shows up, they're supposed to be taken care of. And I just take care of that for the next person, and the next person, and the next person, and the next person. And give them my full attention, do my best to listen to what they're saying, and do my best to perform my task. Do they need adjusted? Do they not? Make the adjustment. Was it a good adjustment? Yes. Okay. And try not to take on too many of their problems myself, because those of you that may listen to this who have gone through the Schoenstock classes, there's 4 temperaments. My temperament is a melancholy, which is a perfectionist, and a phlegmatic, so I'm a peacekeeper. So if someone comes in with a lot of problems, I want to try to fix them, but they're not mine to fix, and that's really hard. Right. So it would be great just to say, hey, I'll hook you up to this machine, it'll spit out your problem, you need to do this, 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 and I'll take care of this and this. But that's not, how the good Lord set everything up. So most of the time, he lets us have these problems when we're younger, so that by the time we pass on, hopefully he cleanses us of those, and it's a real easy transition to heaven. So we'll see. But yeah, I would say at 35, I'm not, I am nowhere near where I need to be, but I'm a heck of a lot better than I was when I was 25. So there's always room for improvement.
You're in the right direction.
Getting there, yep.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And, you mentioned Schoenstock a little bit. That's, really the inspiration for what I do here, and what I love so much about it. You mentioned, being practical, we have to live in the world,
Mhm.
but not of it, right? And it's
Mhm.
all about mission. You know,
Mhm.
what is your mission? What are you being called to do? And then, you know, the call back to the family life, you know, has allowed me to, you know, be able to work and still keep the focus on my vocation as a wife and a mother, right?
Yeah.
And I think that, like you mentioned, having problems, having issues and all of that, and not being, you know, able to fix everything. I think the greatest thing about being able to bring like prayer and spirituality is helping others, you know, take that weight off of their shoulders. I mean,
Yeah.
they're not burdens for us to carry around, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's we want to give that yoke back to the Lord, right? And
Yeah.
when you talk about sympathetic nervous system and stress and pain, all of that, you know, there's so much that we carry around that
Yeah.
aren't, you know, is out of our control,
Yeah.
right? And is not meant for us, you know.
Yeah, we try to take the weight of the world on our shoulders, and Jesus did it for us. So that, as a human, it's hard not to just turn everything over, because I'd just rather fix it myself. But the more that we can say, okay, I can't do this anymore. It's yours.
Right.
That seems to be when freedom starts showing up. But you're right. The body, we tend to take everything in and have to. Some people have to internalize stuff for a long time. But if we just bring it in, process it, and then say, okay, Lord, this is yours, then that would certainly help that sympathetic system, because your body just says, okay, I can't fix this. Sure, you take it, you know, take it, Jesus. This is, you know, your yoke is light, and here you go. Just
That's
take
right.
it, take the yoke. But that is, you know, that's where our part is. It's a piece of this puzzle, you know, and so each person has their little part to play. We can take stress off the body from a physical standpoint, allowing the brain to communicate with the body better and allow it to function closer to its natural design so that it can fix itself within limitations of matter. And then if people need that, you know, then that's where their pastors, their priests, spiritual people that can help drive them, you know. The best athletes in the world have coaches. The best, you know, so these people that are at the peak, even like Pepsi and these big companies, they have people from the outside. They come in and they say, what can we do better? So continuous learning, best practices. So I better be a lot better at my job in 9 years than I am now, but I'm a lot better now than I was when I started. So that idea of all that just comes with, you know, so we need a coach, so spiritual coach to help us with that spiritual side of things. So
Right.
that's where it's so important to find that side of it, and then we can help you with a lot of the other stuff, you know, but it's really, really so, I mean, it's all integrated together. In 1910, the founder of chiropractic, D.D. Palmer, wrote in one of his books that chiropractic really reconnects man the physical with man the spiritual. At that time, there wasn't a lot of stress, you know, in 1910. So, in a sense, we do that, but I think because of how elevated our stress has become in the last 25 years, that chiropractic is phenomenal, and so are these other things that can help you.
Right.
So it's a really big piece of what I consider the proactive lifestyle. I want to do things now so that when I'm 85, I can still do a lot of things I'm doing now. What am I going to do to do it? So it's that proactivity versus waiting until things are terrible and then be reactive. So that's where all this stuff integrates in. And so being able to handle stress better helps your nerve system function better. Being able to recognize that I don't have the answers to everything with stress, and the good Lord has the answers. So
Right.
take them. So those things are so critical for us as we, you know, for any person, any patient, for myself personally. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
I mean, the ultimate goal is heaven, right? That's what we're all working for.
Yep.
And that's
yep,
what our sufferings are about, and our,
yep,
you know, what we're journeying towards.
Yeah.
So that's always my reminder is,
Yeah.
okay, when are we building up treasures in heaven, right?
yep, yep.
Rather than
We may not see the fruits now, but there's something, you know. I heard one speaker say, you know, it's like you're running a race and you get into the stadium, and all these people are around it that were there that you touched that now are in heaven, and they're, so it's like, oh wow, I did do something, you know. I didn't think I did anything down here, and it's like, wow, it was actually for a purpose. So I think that's I think you got to remember that's the bigger picture. This is a short little pilgrimage here, but there's a bigger goal. So what do I have to do now to work on that? How can I serve if I'm called to serve, not to be served, and do better tomorrow?
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. I feel like, especially, you know, as a man of God, that, I mean, it really speaks volumes, because, you know, I think a lot of times it takes a lot of humility, you know, and faith to be able to, you know, put yourself out there and be willing to share that.
Well, I give my wife the credit. She's helped open me up a little bit, but if it wasn't for her, I would still be where I was. She's helped, you know, as spouses, we're called to help the other one get to heaven, so she certainly has her hands full, but she's doing a really good job so far. So, yeah.
Lots of prayers.
Thank you, Julia. Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Thank you, Julia. Oh, good. Well, thanks for joining us. Do you have any last comments or advice or anything for those that are struggling, suffering, stress, pain? What, you know, last thoughts?
Well, I feel like the way I look at things from a chiropractic standpoint is there is a cause and effect, but sometimes the cause isn't ours to fix. The good Lord can fix it. Some people, medical side, the Lord works through them to provide healing. Sometimes the Lord works through us to provide healing. Sometimes He provides the healing Himself. So I feel like with everything that someone is doing is to make sure that you're keeping that relationship with Jesus at the forefront. Because if anybody knows anything about suffering, you know, died for our sins, and to use these great practitioners like Dr. Lisa and myself to help you along your spiritual journey and your health journey, so that at some point you can meet the good Lord and say, gosh, you did some great stuff with me, and it was because I did these things to help stay healthy. So that'd be my last final thoughts.
Great. Well, thank you so much, and look
Thanks
forward
for
to
having
maybe
me.
having you again.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Great, thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Well, let's just end in a quick prayer.
Okay.
The Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for allowing us to be here together today to share your word, witness to your healing power, both physically and spiritually. And we just ask that you would bless Dr. Monnin and all of his patients, his practice. And we ask Mother Thrice Admirable, Queen of Victress Health, pray for us. Father Kentonick, pray for us. Amen.
Amen.